Hello, guys. Close your eyes and imagine yourself in ancient India in the dim blue hour before dawn. The world is quiet and cool. You walk barefoot on soft earth towards a wide, gentle river. A light mist curls over the water. On the far bank, a few palm trees stand still as painted silhouettes. You step down carved stone steps, a ghat worn smooth by generations of feet, and feel the chill of the stones under your toes. In your hands, you carry a small copper lota filled with water. The metal vessel has already become cool to the touch in the pre-dawn air. Everything is calm. There is no sound but the faint chorus of crickets easing into silence and the whisper of the river's current. You dip your fingers in the lota and let a thin stream of cold water trickle over your forehead, down your face and neck. It is shockingly cold yet refreshing. You inhale sharply and then exhale, watching your breath puff faintly in the hush of the morning. Gently, you pour bowl after bowl of water over your body. Each splash echoes softly as it hits your skin and the stone steps, the droplets merging back into the great quiet river. A small prayer escapes your lips as you perform this daily ritual bath, snana, purifying body and spirit at once. In these early hours, many others are doing the same along the riverbank, but all in silence. It's as if the whole world is immersed in this shared, wordless reverence for water and morning light. The eastern sky grows pale, and you feel the cool water washing away the night's inertia, stirring you fully awake. The water's touch is sacred at dawn. A cold bath before sunrise is believed to revitalize the body and cleanse the mind of any lingering darkness from sleep. Even in the chill of winter, many discipline themselves to use cold water, considering it a test of fortitude and a way to balance the humors of the body. The cold makes you mindful. You can feel every inch of your skin come alive in the cool air. There are no soaps in this era, at least not the bars of scented foam we know today, but nature provides its own cleansers. You reach for a small earthen dish nearby, where a homemade paste has been prepared for the bath. It's an ubtan, a soft herbal scrub, a mixture of ground turmeric, sandalwood powder, and chickpea flour, moistened with a bit of milk into a golden paste. With gentle motions, you rub it over your arms and legs. The paste is cool and grainy, with a mild, earthy fragrance. As you massage it in, the turmeric leaves a subtle yellow tint on your skin that will rinse away, and the chickpea flour lifts away sweat and dirt. Such herbal pastes have been used for ages, to cleanse, to exfoliate, to perfume the skin ever so delicately. The turmeric in it acts as an antiseptic and a purifier, and sandalwood leaves you smelling faintly of woods and sweetness long after your bath. Beside you, an older woman is finishing her bath. She has brought a clay pot of water from home and now refills it in the river to rinse off the last of the herbal paste from her body. With practiced movements, she pours the water over herself, using a small clay kumbha in one hand and the larger pot in the other. She shivers slightly at the cold splash, but smiles. It is invigorating. Around her, a few other bathers quietly do the same, some using ladles and jars to direct the water over their heads, careful not to waste a drop. Most prefer to bathe in flowing rivers or in public bathing tanks at this auspicious time of day, but even those who must bathe at home make sure to draw fresh water and bathe in the courtyard at dawn. Cleanliness at first light is both practical and spiritual. It prepares one for the day's duties and prayers. Indeed, many will not eat or even sip water in the morning until they have bathed and rinsed the night from their mouths and bodies. There is a saying among the learned, bathing in the morning makes one pure for prayer, pure for knowledge, pure for the day. So, the village wakes not with clatter or speech, but with the gentle sounds of water, trickling, pouring, splashing, and the murmur of mantras mingling with the river's song. If you find comfort in these quiet journeys through the past, feel free to like and subscribe. It helps more than you know. Also, I'd love for you to share in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there right now. It's always so interesting to see how far and wide these quiet moments reach. Now, imagine the soft light of dawn growing a little brighter. You emerge from the river with your wet clothes clinging to you and climb the steps slowly. Water is dripping from your hair and garments, leaving dark patches on the ancient stones. At the top of the ghat, you pause and wash your feet one last time in a small basin provided there. No one enters a temple or home with unwashed feet. The morning air feels cool on your damp skin. You squeeze the excess water from your thin cotton dhoti and spread your arms for a moment, letting the faint rays of the rising sun warm you. Around you, others are doing the same, wringing out wet clothes, some wrapping dry shawls around their shoulders. Along the ghat's edge, stone ledges are built into the steps, and a few people lay out their rinsed garments there to dry in the sun. These public ghats were thoughtfully designed, not only steps for entering the water, but also flat platforms where one can sit, pray, or dry off. A young man nearby carefully folds his wet cloth and places it on a carved stone railing, intending to let it dry a bit while he completes his prayers. Everywhere there is an unspoken etiquette of quiet and respect. People avoid splashing others. Conversation is minimal and hushed. Bathing at dawn is almost a sacred meditation. As you walk back to your house, the village is coming alive. A few stray cows wander, and women with wet hair hurry home carrying brass pots brimming with water from the river. These pots are heavy, but the women carry them gracefully on their hips or heads, water barely sloshing over the rim. They have filled them for those in the family who bathe later, or to have water ready for cooking and cleaning. You hear the creak of a pulley and the gentle slosh of water, and notice two sisters drawing water from the village well in the central courtyard. The well is lined with stone, its mouth covered with a wooden wheel. One sister turns the pulley, lowering a clay bucket tied with core rope. With a distant splash, the bucket submerges, and then she winds it up, the rope whining softly as cool water drips from the rising bucket. The other sister stands ready with a big terracotta urn. The bucket appears, full and glistening, and they carefully pour the water into their urn, filling it to the brim. A little spills over, darkening the dust at their feet. The younger girl laughs under her breath as the cold water splashes her toes. Soon they set off home with the urn of fresh water balanced between them. Such scenes of fetching water and bathing repeat every day. In every town and village, a quiet choreography of cleanliness and care that begins the morning. Now you are home in your modest courtyard. The sun's first rays slant across the packed earth ground. In one corner of the courtyard, there is a large clay jar for water storage, and next to it, on a low stool, a copper basin and a small brass lota cup. This is the simple home bathing setup. Not everyone has the luxury of a river or pond at their doorstep, so many families bathe with stored water right in their courtyards. You decide to finish your ablutions here. First, you perform a few more personal hygiene rituals that are part of everyone's morning routine. You retrieve a neem twig that has been soaking in water overnight. Your toothbrush. It is about 8 inches long, the end already frayed into bristles. Placing it in your mouth, you chew it gently until the fibers soften further and release the bitter taste of neem. You use this fibrous end to brush your teeth, up and down, side to side. The bitterness of the neem is strong, but not unpleasant. It cleans the mouth and is known to kill unseen germs. Ancient medical texts like the Sushruta Samhita and Karaka Samhita advise using such herbal sticks for dental care, neem, licorice root, or other medicinal branches to keep the teeth and gums healthy. As you brush, You tongue the bark's bitter oil. Neem's flavor is sharp and cleansing, very unlike modern sweet mint toothpaste. When you are done, you spit out the twig's remnants and rub your teeth with a finger dipped in a bit of charcoal ash, an extra step some take to polish the teeth and remove stains. You then scrape your tongue from a peg on the wall. You take a thin strip of curved copper and gently drag it from the back of your tongue to the tip, repeating until your tongue is clean of the white film of the night. This practice, Javanirlakana, is mentioned in Ayurveda as well. It removes impurities and freshens the breath. You rinse your mouth with a few sips of water, swishing and spitting into the drain along the courtyard's edge. Immediately you pour another lota of water into your cupped left hand and wash your hands and face again, for it's important that nothing unclean remains on your hands after touching your mouth. This is a key rule of Shauka, cleanliness. The mouth is considered a source of impurity after eating or brushing, so one must rinse the hands thoroughly. No soap is used, just water and sometimes a touch of mud or ash as a natural scrub. You carefully pour water over your hands from the lota, rubbing your fingers, and let it drip into the drainage channel. You recall that one should never reuse water that has touched the mouth or body. Such used water is called uchista, ritually polluted, and must be discarded. It's an old taboo. Even later in the day, family members will not drink from each other's cups or use someone else's bath water. Each must have fresh water for themselves to maintain purity. These customs keep communal water sources clean as well. Next, you gently splash a bit of cool water into your eyes, blinking to rinse them. Some people at this point apply anjana, a homemade collyrium of soot or herbs to their eyelids, believing it keeps the eyes clear and wards off infection, but you simply rub your eyes with the edge of a clean cloth. A thin sheen of early sunlight now gilds the top of the courtyard wall, and you feel its warmth on your face as you tilt your head up in thanks. Before your bath, you take a small spoonful of sesame oil and drop it into your nostrils, an Ayurvedic practice called nasya to lubricate and protect the nasal passages. You also rub a few drops into your ears. The sesame oil is slightly warmed and has a nutty scent. You sniff and tilt your head back. The oil feels strange but soothing. Now it's time for the oil massage. In a shallow clay bowl, you have more sesame oil warmed over a tiny charcoal brazier. You dip your fingers in and begin to massage the oil into your scalp and hair. The oil is thick and rich, making your hair gleam. You take your time, working it into the roots with your fingertips in slow circular motions. A good champi, scalp massage, is a cherished routine. Ayurvedic texts recommend daily oiling of the head, saying it prevents headaches, graying, and hair fall. And indeed, you find it relaxing. Tension seems to melt away as you press your scalp and temples. Next, you apply oil to your limbs, your arms, legs, torso, kneading muscles gently. This is called abhyanga, the oil massage before bath. The idea is that the oil, often infused with herbs, will nourish the skin and also loosen any grime, which the bath will then wash off. Your skin glistens in the morning light, slick and dusted with tiny bits of herbal powder from the previous scrub. You look almost golden from the turmeric and oil combined. By now the air is warming enough that you do not feel cold standing with only a thin cloth around your waist. The courtyard is private, enclosed by mud brick walls, open to the sky. A few sparrows hop about looking for morning crumbs. Now you begin the actual bath in the courtyard. You take up the brass lota once more and fill it from the large water jar. This water is drawn from the well, cool and clear. Standing over a low bathing slab of stone, you raise the lota and pour it over your oiled head. The water comes in a steady stream and hits your scalp with a shock of cold, then runs down in rivulets along your body, carrying oil and yellow turmeric streaks with it. You rub your skin briskly as the water flows, rinsing away the loosened dirt and dead skin. More water, more pouring. You methodically cleanse yourself from head to toe. The courtyard has a drainage channel along one side that carries the used water out to a soak pit behind the house. This little bathing area is simple but effective. A sloped floor, a drain, privacy. It reminds you that even the grand cities of old were built on such principles, sloped bathing floors and proper drains. In fact, you've heard elders mention the ruins of an ancient city called Mohenjo-Daro, far to the west beyond the Great Desert. There, houses thousands of years ago had their own washrooms with slanted floors that drained into covered sewers. It's said those sewers were brick-lined and ran under the main streets, emptying into soak pits outside the town. The people of that lost Indus Valley civilization must have known the value of cleanliness in city life. They even built a monumental public bathing pool, the famous Great Bath excavated by archaeologists, with fine brickwork sealed against leaks. As you pour another lotta of water over yourself, you reflect that bathing is an eternal human practice, connecting you with those ancients. The thought is comforting. Countless dawns, countless people in different ages, all pouring water over their heads to feel renewed. You finish rinsing. The stone slab at your feet is awash with water and oil, gleaming in the sunlight. You run your hand over your arms. They feel clean and a bit oily, but you know within minutes the excess oil will soak in or be dried by the sun, leaving your skin soft. You squeeze out your long hair, which is saturated with water and oil, and wrap it in a linen cloth to dry a bit. Standing in a patch of sun, you now tie a fresh cotton cloth around your waist. It's clean, having been laundered yesterday, and it carries the faint smell of the neem leaves it was stored with to keep insects away. You feel truly awake and refreshed. Sleeping mats and clothes were all changed yesterday. As is customary after the weekly thorough bath with oil, many families choose the day of Saturn, Saturday, or the eve of new moon for an extra indulgent oil bath. In your case, today happened to be the new moon, a significant day when an oil bath is almost ritual. The entire family massages themselves with warm oil and bathes to mark the occasion. The idea is to start the new lunar cycle, cleansed and renewed. Even now, you can smell a trace of sesame oil and turmeric on your skin, a wholesome, nutty, spicy aroma that to you is the scent of cleanliness. Morning routines continue. You wrap a fresh cloth over your damp torso. You won't put on your dry upper garments until your skin and hair are fully dry, to avoid soaking them. It's common to let the sun do the drying. In many households, you see people stepping out after bathing, clad in just a wet cotton cloth, standing or sitting in the sun for a short while. It's a time for quiet prayer or just warming up. A young boy runs past your courtyard, his hair dripping, leaving little wet footprints in the dust. He is likely sent by his mother to fetch something. You notice he didn't fully dry off. A few drops fall from his hair onto the ground. You smile, knowing his mother will scold him lightly. One must dry properly and change into dry clothes. Wandering around in wet garments is not considered wise, lest one catch a chill or invite dirt onto a clean body. Before you proceed with your day, you take a moment to perform a small ritual of internal cleansing, sipping a bit of clean water 3 times and swishing it in your mouth, a practice called achamana. This is often done before prayers or meals. Cupping your right hand, you pour a spoonful of water from the lota and drink it from the base of your palm without letting your lips touch your hand, so the leftover water in your palm can simply be dropped away, not back into the pot. This way, you avoid contaminating the source of water. You swish and spit once more, then touch a few drops to your eyes and forehead in reverence. Now you feel physically and spiritually purified. Across your village, and indeed across the land, similar scenes are unfolding. Brahmin priests, for instance, are required by tradition to bathe at least twice a day, if not 3 times. Early morning and late afternoon baths bookend their daily prayers, the Sandhyavandanam rituals at sunrise and sunset. A Brahmin family nearby has a small private well and bathing area. The father, a Vedic scholar, has already bathed at first light. He now sits on a mat under the neem tree, hair still wet, reciting mantras under his breath. In his bath, he followed quite strictly the rules set out in the Dharmashastra. He did not bathe in the nude or at midnight, nor in water that was stagnant or untrustworthy. He even kept a cloth wrapped around him while pouring water, as Manusmriti advises modesty during bathing. For him, purity shao is a state to be maintained diligently throughout the day. If anything polluting happens, say he accidentally touches a chandala, an outcast, or a dead animal, he will promptly interrupt whatever he's doing and bathe again, sometimes even fully clothed as penance, to remove the impurity. The ancient law book of Manu declares that when one has come into contact with certain defiling things or people, one becomes pure by bathing. The texts are explicit. Having touched a chandala, a menstruating woman, an outcast, a woman in childbirth, or a corpse, one should bathe with clothes on and be purified. Thus, our priest neighbor always keeps an extra set of garments washed and ready, in case an unexpected second or third bath is needed in the day. Such concepts of purity and pollution weave subtly through daily life. For example, the priest's wife, after her bath, will avoid cooking until she has changed into a clean sari, one that was not worn while she slept or did unclean tasks. If someone in the household were to touch a shoe or anything considered unclean, they might rinse their hands before handling food or sacred items. Before the family sits for the morning meal, each member will wash hands and feet, often without soap, but with thorough water rinsing, sometimes facing a particular direction as custom dictates. An old Grihaya Sutra rule says one should wash one's feet facing west and void waste facing south or north, aligning even mundane acts with the compass of ritual propriety. The children know not to drink water from someone else's cup, to avoid mixing saliva, a practice of uchista avoidance that has been ingrained in them. They also know that if they drop a morsel from their plate, the dog can have it, but it would be unthinkable for another person to eat it. Such is the degree of fastidiousness in matters of personal hygiene and sharing of food and water. Not all these rules are strictly enforced at all times, especially among the lower castes or out in the fields, but in a Brahmin household like this one, they strive to uphold them. The idea is not just physical cleanliness, but maintaining a kind of ritual order. Menstruating women, for instance, are in a state of ashauka, impurity, for a few days, and traditionally do not cook or closely interact. Once their period ends, they take a special head-to-toe bath, and only then rejoin routine household activities. Anyone who touches them during those days might feel obliged to bathe. Similarly, if someone attends a funeral or helps carry a corpse to the cremation ground, they remain impure until they have bathed and changed clothes, often immediately after the rites, sometimes even at the cremation site, using water carried in earthen pots. An ancient verse from Manusmriti describes a person voluntarily following a funeral procession and prescribes that after the cremation, he must bathe on the spot with all his garments on, then touch fire and ingest a little clarified butter to complete his purification. We can imagine him at the river after burning the body, walking fully dressed into the waters to cleanse the taint of death. Only after such a thorough cleaning would he consider himself whole and clean again. These traditions underscore a deep belief that purity is not just about visible cleanliness, but an invisible spiritual state that can be disturbed by certain contacts and restored by ritual washing. For most people, however, these concerns are balanced with practical necessity and a gentle rhythm. Now that the morning baths are done, the village begins its day. Children, bathed and shivering, are being rubbed briskly with towels by their mothers or grandmothers. A bit of sandalwood paste might be applied to their foreheads, leaving a pale, fragrant mark, cooling the skin and imparting a sweet smell. Sometimes a dot of turmeric paste is applied on the arms or cheeks. Turmeric is believed to ward off certain skin troubles and also gives a healthy glow. These pastes serve as natural deodorants too. Long before chemical perfumes, people learned that sandalwood, turmeric, camphor, and certain floral oils like jasmine or rose could mask and mitigate body odors. In fact, Ayurvedic texts include recipes for pastes and powders to apply in the armpits or on the body to keep fresh. Powdered vetiver root and sandalwood, mixed with a bit of alum, for example, made a fine deodorizing talc. For lice in hair, there were washes made with neem leaves or custard apple seed paste. For keeping skin supple in the dry season, sesame oil or ghee was applied after bathing, an ancient moisturizer. Our ancestors were resourceful, turning to the plants around them for all these needs. A mother combs her daughter's hair now, having oiled it lightly. The scent of the coconut oil, warmed by body heat, wafts in the air. She parts the little girl's hair and checks for any lice, and as a preventative, she'll smear a tiny bit of neem oil behind the child's ears, a folk remedy to keep lice away, which also gives a medicinal clean smell. Let us wander a bit now, in our imagination, beyond this village, to see how cleanliness was tended in other places and circumstances in ancient India. Picture in your mind one of the earliest cities of the subcontinent, Mohenjo-Daro, around 2500 BCE. It's morning there too, the sun rising over a grid of baked brick houses. The inhabitants of Mohenjo-Daro rub sleep from their eyes and step into small bathing areas within their homes. Yes, remarkably, this ancient Indus Valley city had bathing facilities almost in every house. Archaeologists have found that most homes, even modest ones, contained a dedicated space for washing, a square or rectangular platform made of brick, often with a drain leading out. The floors of these wash areas were meticulously sloped towards the drain, and many were plastered with a watertight finish. The wastewater would travel through clay pipes or channels built into the walls, joining bigger brick-lined drains under the main streets. As you walk the dusty streets of Mohenjo-Daro in this mental journey, you see covers on some of the drains, and at intervals, circular soak pits or cesspools where the drains deposit and filter the waste. City workers would clean these pits periodically, perhaps even recycling the solid waste as fertilizer on fields outside the city. There is almost no foul smell. The drainage system is that well thought out. You realize with admiration that these people, 4,500 years ago, enjoyed what one might call the ancient world's best plumbing. Mohenjo-Daro's focus on cleanliness is further evidenced by the Great Bath in the Citadel Mound, an expansive public bath, 39 feet long and 8 feet deep, fed by the town's well water. It was built of finely fitted bricks sealed with bitumen to hold water without leakage. Perhaps it was used for special rituals or ceremonies, a communal cleansing on holy days. The very prominence of this bath, it is the largest structure in the city's center, suggests that the people placed tremendous value on bathing and water purity. One archaeologist mused that the culture of the Indus Valley might have been a city of bathers, so central was water to their life. The Great Bath likely wasn't for routine daily baths, since, as noted, most had private washing areas, but for ritual immersion, maybe for priests or the general public during religious festivals. Walking further, you peek into a well-to-do house. Here you find something even more surprising, a latrine, a primitive toilet setup. Against an outer wall, there is a brick enclosure with a hole that seems to drop into a vertical chute. At the bottom of the chute, below the house foundation, sits a large clay jar sunk into the ground, a receptacle for human waste. This is an ancient flush toilet of sorts. How it worked becomes apparent. A person would squat over the hole, perhaps on a wooden seat that has since rotted away, and do their business, which would fall into the clay jar. Afterward, they would pour a jar of water down to rinse, essentially flushing the waste down the chute into the jar. Later, servants or night soil collectors would remove the jar, dispose of its contents, possibly in compost pits outside the city, clean it, and replace it. The chute and jar system isolates the waste from the living space pretty effectively. Some houses even had second-story bathrooms and vertical drains to carry water or waste down. You can see remains of terracotta drain pipes that once carried used water from an upstairs bathing floor down to the street level. Almost every street in Mohenjo-Daro has a central covered sewer so that the wastewater from homes, and likely the waste from these latrines, when the jars were flushed out, would all end up in the main drainage and be carried off out of town. It's incredible. In these ancient cities, cleanliness wasn't just personal, it was urban policy. Imagine the dedication, brick masons and city planners ensuring that each house's waste and bathing water had a route to leave the city, keeping the living environment clean and odor-free. Mohenjo-Daro, at its height, may have had 30 or 40,000 residents, yet with this sanitation infrastructure, it might have avoided much of the squalor that plagued later dense cities elsewhere. Archaeologists have found artifacts that give further glimpses. In the ruins of these Indus cities, they uncovered small objects that look like scrapers, perhaps used to scrape the skin during bathing, much like the Greeks and Romans would later use strigils, or to wipe away excess oil after an oil massage. They also found terracotta pots that may have been used to heat water by placing hot coals under them for a warm bath on cooler days, and elegant faience perfume bottles, which suggest the use of scented oils post-bath. There's evidence that people used natural substances for cleaning then too. Residues of plant oils and starches in certain jars hint that concoctions of soap nut or other saponin-rich plants might have been brewed for washing clothes or hair. Even if actual soap, as combining fats with alkali, wasn't invented yet, the soapnut tree Retha was available. Its fruits contain a natural soap. One could imagine an Indus Valley mother washing her child's hair with a frothy extract of soap nuts, the same way Indian villagers would millennia later. Surviving artifacts suggest that the Indus people poured pottery jugs of water over themselves to shower and utilized clay scrapers similar to later cultures for cleaning the skin, notes one modern historian. It's a continuous thread, the simple act of pouring water from a jug and scraping off the dirt, repeated age after age. Leaving the ancient city in our mind's eye, we return to the countryside and the unfolding day. The sun is higher now. It's mid-morning. People are generally done with bathing until the next day, except perhaps those who got a late start, or some travelers arriving dusty who head straight to the river for a wash. In the fields, farmers work, and if they sweat heavily or get mud covered, they might rinse off in an irrigation canal or at a well during a break. Simplicity is key. Splash water on the face, wipe the hands, maybe wash the feet if they've stepped in something. There is a saying that one should wash one's feet after coming from any impure place or before entering the home, a practical habit to keep the house floors, often just earth or cow dung coated earth, clean. So even children returning from play will stop at the threshold to douse their feet from a waiting pot of water before bounding inside. Now, consider some special instances. For example, a group of pilgrims traveling to a sacred river confluence. They have walked for days to reach Prayaga, modern Allahabad, where the Ganges and Yamuna rivers meet. It's a holy day during the Kumbh festival, and thousands have gathered. Amid chanting and the sound of distant bells, men and women step into the chill waters at the break of day, convinced that this Tirtha Snana pilgrimage bath will wash away the accumulated sins of lifetimes. Over 1,000 years ago, the Chinese monk Xuanzang witnessed such scenes and wrote in wonder about them, how people from all corners of India undertook long journeys to bathe at sacred rivers, believing deeply in the spiritual potency of those waters. He noted that the waters of the Ganga were believed to be sweet and purifying, and that bathing in them could expiate sins. So here at Prayaga, under a golden sunrise, pilgrims immerse themselves fully. 3 dips, head under water, hands folded in prayer. They wear thin white cotton cloths that cling to their bodies when wet, a symbol of purity. Some chant the names of gods as they dunk, others simply shiver in silence with eyes closed, tears of devotion mingling with the river water on their faces. After emerging, they will often air dry, standing in the sun on the riverbank, eyes closed in meditation. Then they will don clean clothes. Many carry a spare outfit in a bundle just for after the holy bath, and proceed to the temples for worship or to give alms. Xuanzang describes that on certain days, kings and wealthy people would also come to bathe and give away lavish gifts, as at the grand bathing festival at the confluence. He saw perhaps what we can imagine, a long line of bathers glistening in the sun, the river flowing swift around them, priests chanting Sankalpa prayer vows on the banks, and the peculiar peace that comes after a mass bath, as if the river has absorbed the burdens of millions, carrying them away downstream. From the exalted to the everyday, let's step into a temple complex in a classical city of the Gupta period, around the 5th century CE. The temple is built of stone, dedicated to Vishnu. Outside the main shrine, within the complex, is a large rectangular tank of water reserved for ritual bathing. It's lined with neatly fitted stones, with broad steps on all sides leading down into the greenish water. This is the temple tank, often called a pushkarini or kalyani. In the morning, the temple priests come here first. They leave their quarters and walk to the tank in the cool dawn. The head priest, an aging man with ash-smeared forehead, steps onto the top step and offers a brief prayer to the guardian spirits of water. Then he descends and slips out of his silk doy, covering himself with a mere loincloth. With a small pot, he gathers water and pours it gently over the stone idol of a serpent deity that sits at the water's edge, an offering to the Naga of the tank. Then he enters the tank himself, immersing fully with a practiced breath. He pops back up, wet from head to toe, and stands chest deep in the pool. Using a copper lota, he scoops water and raises it above his head, letting it cascade over his hair and shoulders repeatedly. As he does this, he chants softly, verses of purification, perhaps the Apavitra mantra, or snippets of the Vedas. The sound of his chanting echoes off the surface of the water and the high stone walls surrounding the tank. A few assistant priests are also in the tank, performing their own silent ablutions. The temple rules require them to be clean of body before they can touch the divine idols or perform worship. They will bathe again in the evening if there is an arti lamp ceremony. Some temples even have a rule that the priest must rinse his mouth and limbs each time before entering the sanctum if any impure incident happened, like accidentally touching someone from a lower caste or a woman in her period, though in a strict temple environment, that would rarely happen because of taboos. In one corner of the tank, there are separate steps where women devotees can bathe, screened modestly by a carved lattice wall. Often, temple tanks had informal segregation, certain sides or hours for women, to allow privacy and adherence to social norms. A few women in wet saris now climb out, modestly squeezing water from their long hair, their bangles jingling quietly. They will change into dry clothes behind a screen before entering the temple to offer lamps and flowers to the deity. Nearby, at the temple's elephant shed, an elephant is also being bathed. This large temple maintains a ceremonial elephant for processions. At first light, the Mahots led the gentle giant to a stone bathing ramp at a pond adjacent to the temple. The elephant, knowing the routine, had waded in halfway, and now two men atop its back and one standing on the ramp scrubbed the elephant's thick gray skin with coconut husk brushes. The big creature closes its eyes in apparent pleasure as water is sluiced over it from huge clay buckets. The Mahots use a paste of gram flour and coconut fiber to clean behind its ears and under its belly. The water roars as it's tossed onto the elephant's broad back, then cascades down in sparkling sheets. After a thorough scrub and rinse, the elephant emerges, and the men use clean rags to dry inside its large flapping ears and around its tusks. They decorate its forehead with a streak of sandalwood paste. Even the elephant receives a tilak mark, a sign of sanctity after its bath. Now the temple's morning rituals can truly begin, with priest and beast alike purified for the day's sacred duties. As the day progresses, cleanliness continues in smaller ways. People wash their hands and faces before each meal, often with just water, but very thoroughly. In an average household around midday, when it's time for the main meal, you'll see the family members gather at the courtyard well or kitchen door. Each pours water from a pot over their right hand, scrubbing the left and right hands together, maybe using a touch of ash or sand if there's grease. Soap, as we know, is not yet common, but ash, being alkaline, works as a decent cleanser for oils, and it's readily available from the hearth. They rinse their mouths too, ensuring no dust or grime goes to the dining floor. Many families also practice a rule to rinse the feet before eating, especially if one has come in from outside. It's not unusual to see a boy or girl trod barefoot into the kitchen with wet footprints, evidence they dutifully washed their feet at the door. Among Orthodox folks, there is even a recommended orientation. One should face east or north while washing up or eating, since those directions are auspicious and promote good digestion. Perhaps you recall an old Apastamba Sutra verse: one shall eat facing the east, void waste facing the south or north, and wash the feet facing the west, prescribing a kind of geometrical harmony to daily acts. During the heat of noon, some take a quick second bath, or at least a cooling splash. It's common in hotter regions for people to simply jump into a pond or well with a rope and bucket bath around midday to beat the heat, or to wet a cloth and wipe themselves down. This might not be a full ritual bath, but it's for comfort and basic hygiene. The idea of sweat sticking on the body is not pleasant to most. If one has sweated through one's clothes, typically they will change into fresh clothes after rinsing off. In fact, etiquette often dictates not to attend any respectable gathering in sweat-soiled garments. If a traveler arrives sweaty and dusty at someone's home, they are immediately offered water and maybe a place to wash up. There's a lovely custom. The host will bring out a lota and a basin and pour water over the guest's hands and feet. Personally, washing the guest's feet is a sign of respectful welcome and also pragmatic cleanliness. One of the Dharma Sutras, Bodhayana, even says, "Let one not lie down to sleep in the clothes worn during the day's labor." Thus many keep a separate set of clean clothes for after washing in the evening. The evening. Let's shift our senses to the gentle dusk now. The sun is low, and after a long day, people yearn to clean themselves once more before the night. The farmer returns from the fields, body smeared with mud and sweat. He doesn't necessarily bathe fully at sunset, unless he's particularly devout or dirty. but he surely washes his hands, feet, and face. At the village well, he draws a bucket and pours it over his dusty legs. The cool water removes the caked mud from his shins and cools his hardened feet. He scrubs the cracks of his heels with a smooth pebble kept by the well for that purpose, a primitive footstone. It's fascinating how even small tools like that stone find a place. In the absence of modern pumice or brushes, a well-chosen smooth river stone can help scrape off dirt or calluses. He then splashes water on his face and neck, rubbing off the grime. With wet hands, he slicks back his hair. He feels the fatigue of the day wash away with the dust. The water that drips off him falls onto thirsty ground, immediately making dark splotches in the dirt. He sighs with relief. Now he can step into his home. His wife has set out a fresh mat for him on the veranda. She shook out the old rush mat and laid a new one of woven date palm leaves. After washing, lying on a clean mat or fresh straw bed feels especially nice. In some households, particularly of meticulous caste communities, they would even replace the straw bedding periodically to ensure that one always sleeps in a clean place. After one's evening cleansing, the farmer changes into a loose, clean cotton shawl and sits on the mat to enjoy the evening breeze. The simplicity of rinsing and changing into clean clothes marks a shift. Day's labors are done, the body is refreshed, and one can relax without the day's dirt clinging on. In town, the Brahmin priest we met earlier has also performed an evening bath. He did it as the sun was setting, though not too late. Some text caution not to bathe after dark unless necessary. It was a shorter bath, mostly a quick dip in the temple tank, accompanied by the chanting of Vedic verses. By now he is wrapped in a freshly laundered cotton shawl, performing the evening sanya prayer with incense and a small lamp. The temple courtyard is permeated by the fragrance of incense and also of wet earth. One of the junior priests sprinkled water on the ground to settle the dust before the prayer gathering, a common practice that also lends a pleasant petrichor smell. Devotees trickle in for the evening arati lamp offering. Many of them, even if they did not fully bathe, at least washed their feet, hands, and face before coming, and certainly rinsed their mouths. It's considered disrespectful to approach the sacred flame or icon with unwashed limbs, or especially after eating without rinsing. Indeed, earlier you had seen a man hastily doing akamana, sipping and spitting water at the temple entrance because he had snacked on a roasted gram on the way. He wanted to ensure he was ritually pure to step inside. There is an interesting sight as darkness falls, a group of Jain monks passing through the village outskirts. They are of the Digambara order, sky-clad, which means they wear no clothing at all except perhaps a small apron when in public view. Their leader is a middle-aged monk with a serene face, carrying the only possessions they allow themselves, a peacock feather whisk to gently sweep the ground of insects before sitting, and a small pot of water for drinking. You might notice something peculiar. The monks are noticeably dusty, and their hair and beards are uncut and a bit matted. These monks practice extreme renunciation, and bathing is not part of their frequent routine. In fact, the Digambara tradition holds that one should avoid indulgence in bodily care, including bathing. One Jain text states starkly, "The saint is not allowed to bathe. He has no time to think of cleaning his body. His focus is on cleansing the soul." So these monks do not bathe regularly at all, sometimes going months or even years without a full bath. They believe any obsession with the body's cleanliness can lead to vanity, and moreover, they wish to minimize harm to any living creatures. Bathing might inadvertently kill small water-dwelling life forms, an act of violence from the Jain perspective, so they content themselves with occasional wipe-downs, washing of hands and feet when truly necessary. For instance, if they step in filth, they will quietly wash that area, but nothing more. To the devout Jains, the internal purity of nonviolence and detachment far outweighs the external purity of daily bathing. Observing them might make one reflect on the contrast. In a world where most treat water as the foremost cleanser of all defilement, here are saints who shun water on their bodies, trusting in the fire of austerity to keep them holy. Other mendicants, like some austere Hindu sadhus, might similarly renounce frequent baths, though many sadhus do ritual dips in rivers on auspicious days. Others cover themselves in ash and claim that is purifying enough. Indeed, ash vibhati from sacred fires is sometimes used as a substitute for water when water is scarce or one is performing penance. Smearing white ash over the body can be a rite of both renunciation and symbolic cleaning, fire having burned away impurities. Some ascetics also do bhasma snana, ash bath, or vayu snana, exposing oneself to wind as a form of cleansing, acknowledging the 5 elements as all capable of purification. The Dharmashastra texts list various kinds of snana. One can cleanse by water, by fire, sunlight, by earth, dust, or mud, by air, and by mind, mantra. So a yogi sitting on a riverbank at sunrise may feel he has bathed in the rays of the sun and the breeze of dawn, even if he has not touched water for days. The night deepens. In clean courtyards across the land, families settle down for dinner on the floor, sitting on woven mats that were cleaned earlier. The fragrance of curries and rice fills the air. Before eating, each person touches water again, sprinkling a few drops around their plate as a ritual offering and wetting their fingertips. They eat with their right hand, as per tradition, and when finished, lick their fingers and then immediately rise to wash hands and mouth again. A running joke in our culture is that a truly orthodox person spends almost as much time washing themselves as doing anything else. But it's not far off. Every transition, sleep to waking, outside to inside, work to meal, meal to prayer, etc., is marked by a little washing. After dinner, some people like to take a walk to the river or well one last time, not for a full bath, but perhaps to rinse the feet and splash water on the eyes to relieve any heat. There is a belief that washing one's feet before sleep brings better, cleaner dreams and health. Also, many prefer not to go to bed feeling sticky or dirty. In royal palaces or wealthy homes, they had attendants pour scented water for a lady to wash her face and feet at night, sometimes even rose water or water steeped with jasmine to give a perfumed freshness before retiring. In humble villages, a basin with cool water and maybe a few marigold petals suffices for a refreshing rinse. Finally, our day is done. You roll out your bedroll, a simple cotton mattress, on the veranda or perhaps indoors on a raised platform. If it's a special cleansing day or festival, you might have strewn some fresh grass or leaves under your mat, a rustic substitute for a new bed. The smell of the grass is soothing. You lie down feeling the slight weight of your body against the freshly woven mat. Your skin still carries hints of the day's bathing, the slight slick of oil, the faint fragrance of turmeric and sandalwood, the comfort of knowing your feet are clean and your mouth is clean. In the quiet of the night, you reflect on how intertwined cleanliness is with the cycle of life here. It's not a burden or a separate chore. It is woven into every transition of the day, a rhythm of purity that guides life from dawn to dusk. Bathing and cleansing are not done in haste. They are done with a mindful presence, almost with reverence. Whether it's the grand ritual bath in a holy river or the simple act of washing one's hands before a meal, each is accorded a certain grace and importance. Your eyes grow heavy. In the distance, you can just make out the sound of the river flowing in the dark, and perhaps the soft chirping of night crickets starting up again. Somewhere a temple bell tinkles for the last time, and oil lamps are being snuffed. Before you drift into sleep, You remember that even while sleeping, purity must be guarded. An old superstition says one should sleep in clean clothes on a clean bed to keep bad dreams and spirits at bay. And so you are, wrapped in a soft cotton sheet that still smells of sunshine from drying on the line. You close your eyes, clean and at peace. Water, earth, oil, ash, herb, mantra. Today, as in ancient times, these humble elements have been your allies in staying clean. In your mind's eye, you see again the morning river with its silver gray ripples, the quiet splash of water against stone at dawn, the women at the well drawing water with a rope's creak, the yellow smear of turmeric on a child's cheek, the cool touch of a copper lota pouring water down your back. You smell the damp scent of wet clay pots, the sharp bitter neem on your tongue, the sweet jasmine oil in your hair, the pungent whiff of mustard oil lamps, mixed with the clean odor of cow dung swept floors. These sensations are gentle and grounding. They connect you to a timeless human experience, the comfort of being clean, the refreshment of bathing after a day's toil, the dignity and calm that comes with ritual purity. Thousands of years ago, in the Indus cities, in Vedic villages, in Buddhist monasteries, in Jain hermitages, people might have spoken different languages and prayed to different gods, but all knew the solace of cleansing water, the feel of it washing away not just physical dirt, but the fatigue and troubles of the spirit. Think of the monks at Nalanda we mentioned. In that great monastery, it's recorded that there were more than 10 grand bathing pools, and at each dawn an instrument would sound, calling the monks to their morning bath. Imagine the sight, the sun barely up, a bell or gong ringing through the cloisters, and lines of saffron-robed monks walking quietly to the pools. They disrobe modestly and step into the cool water, submerging themselves in unity. For them, bathing is not just about hygiene, it's almost part of their monastic discipline, a moment of contemplation. Yijing, the Chinese traveler who described this, was impressed by how Indians take baths frequently and set store by bodily cleanliness. Every day they do not eat before having washed themselves. He noticed also that in building bathhouses for monks, they even included heating stoves for warming the water in winter, a thoughtful touch, meaning monks could have warm baths when the weather was cold. Such attention to bathing comfort in a monastic setting underscores again how seriously cleanliness was taken in Indian culture across all walks of life. Contrast that with the Digambara Jain monks we saw, rarely bathing, accepting discomfort and grime as part of transcendence. Two very different approaches, yet each with its own logic. And then there were the forest hermits, Hindu rishis living by rivers, who probably bathed in cold streams at dawn as part of their daily oblations, yet let their hair grow matted and wore garments of bark. The spectrum of cleanliness was broad, yet everyone engaged with the concept in some way, even if by deliberate abstention. Before our story ends, let's not forget one more aspect: community cleanliness and water care. In ancient India, kings and local councils took on the duty to create and maintain the water infrastructure, wells, tanks, stepwells, canals. In many inscriptions on temple walls or copper plates, we find records of ponds being dug and donated to the public, or existing tanks being desilted and deepened as an act of merit. Cleaning the village tank was often a community effort at the end of the monsoon, when silt would have accumulated. Men and women would gather with baskets and hoe-like tools to scoop out the mud, clear weeds, and repair the ghat steps. It was hot, muddy work, done with jovial cooperation, because everyone knew the tank was the life of the settlement, for drinking, for cattle, for bathing. One classical Tamil poem from the Sangam era praises a generous lord who built rest houses and watered public bathing places so that even the poor could bathe daily. And in the later Chola period, we have inscriptions of a local guild being entrusted with keeping a reservoir clean and distributing its water justly. Even the great king Ashoka, in his 3rd century BC edicts, mentions how he had trees planted and wells dug every half cos, approxes every mile, along roads for the welfare of travelers, ensuring that water and shade would be available in the arid tracts. Such civilizational emphasis on water hygiene is remarkable. When tanks would dry up in drought, communities sometimes organized special prayers and volunteer corps to clean them out, so that when rains returned, the reservoir would fill efficiently with pure water, not fouled by rotting matter. There was a social role called tank guardian in some villages, a person or committee responsible for making sure that no one polluted the public water, that people took turns for bathing and washing clothes without causing quarrels or contamination. For instance, a rule might be that clothes washing happens downstream of where people draw drinking water, or that cattle are allowed to drink but not wade in the same part where children swim. The ethos was clear: water is sacred, essential, and communal, so keeping it clean is a shared responsibility. Even ghat cleaning was a service some devout individuals took up, sweeping the steps, removing moss that made them slippery, picking up fallen leaves. During festival times, extra care was taken to clean tanks and wells beforehand, so the influx of pilgrims wouldn't foul them. It's heartening to think of these acts, unsung maintenance of cleanliness in the environment, which allowed the daily culture of bathing to flourish. And so, under the quiet stars, our journey through a day and through the ages of cleanliness in ancient India comes to a close. The village is mostly dark now, save for a few oil lamps flickering in doorways. You might catch the scent of wet neem leaves. Some households sprinkle water mixed with neem or cow dung in the yard at night to settle the dust and repel insects, an old cleaning custom. You hear the last well bucket of the evening being drawn, someone perhaps drawing a little water to wash a baby or to top up the household filter pot. The crickets intensify their song. Inside the houses, people sleep on woven reed mats or cotton-stuffed mattresses on the floor, their bodies clean, their minds at rest. A gentle breeze blows, carrying with it the residual fragrances of the day, a whiff of sandalwood from someone's earlier prayer, the sweet scent of jasmine flowers that a lady wore in her hair after her bath, now set beside her pillow, and the ever-present earthy aroma of clay and wood that forms the fabric of these homes. As you drift off with them, you appreciate how integral these practices of bathing and cleanliness were, not as onerous chores, but as cherished rituals that gave structure and calm to daily life. In the languid quiet of an Indian night, one can almost sense the collective sigh of relief and purity exhaled by an entire community, washed and refreshed, ready to meet the coming dawn anew. It's like living in tune with a natural purity: water to rise, water to eat, water to pray, water to sleep, and beyond water, the subtle layers: clay, oil, herbal smoke, sunlight, mantra, all serving to cleanse both body and soul. Now, the image of that ancient dawn river returns to your mind, bookending the day. The river, dark and flowing under the faint pre-dawn glow, patiently awaiting the footsteps of the first bather tomorrow. Close your eyes and imagine that river, eternal, carrying away all today's impurities in its current, ever renewed. Imagine the cool caress of those waters once more, and the feeling of emergence, cleansed, light, and free. In this peaceful state, let yourself drift into sleep, as if carried on that quiet river. Tomorrow, as for millennia, will begin again with the soft splash of water and the promise of renewal. Shubharatri, good night. May your sleep be as calm and purifying as the sacred waters of our story.